And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's me, TK, and here's Arif, and welcome to Agile 101, Agile Methodologies.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited about today's session, aren't we, TK?
We are quite excited indeed, and I think it's one of the proper Agile 101 sessions because we've had a lot of interest from the community. And by the way, if you're here, give us a sign, say hello. We're going to wave back at you. So, Ulari, Letitia, lovely to see you, wonderful ladies. Today, we're
Lovely to
talking
see everyone.
about something incredibly actionable, which is Agile methodologies. Yeah, Arif. So what are
Yes,
Agile methodologies and why they're important?
really good question. Great way to start. And I'm sure many of you are new to our series. You've probably missed some of these episodes
Yeah, you might
before.
have.
Do do go back and check our previous recordings. There's so much information that I think you'd love to have a look at. But yeah, if you're not new, you've been following us, then you know we've been working our way through the agile values. We've been talking about some of the principles, and we've hinted at some of the very popular methods, frameworks that exist that are out there that make use of these values and
Yeah.
principles, and that those are what are known and quite popularly known as agile methodologies. And I guess today we'll touch on some of them and introduce some of them to you, talk about how different they are, also how maybe some of them are very focused in technology as well. Some of them are a bit more have a wider application.
Hmm.
So there's lots to talk about and consider, I think.
Lots to talk about indeed, and thanks for joining. So we'll start with the definition of agility by Lisa Atkins. So what she said is she's one of the thought leaders in the agile community, and agile is all about being able to be adaptable to change. So being able to make sure that in the ever changeable world, and I'm sure you're aware that the world has changed a lot since the last couple of years, you are able to adapt to it.
Yeah,
And the
definitely.
the thing is, it's a great thing to say, but how do you actually get it done? So there is a wonderful concept, but by another wonderful person, Simon Powell's, his Agile Onion. So Arif, would you be able to guide us a bit through the Agile Onion?
Yeah, definitely. And again, if you're familiar with our series, you've probably seen this in a previous episode. But
Yeah,
let's
sure.
let's talk through it. I mean, the there's an odd Scrum framework thing there. I don't know what happened there, TK. But anyway, we'll come back to that. The Agile Onion, it describes, or it's a nice metaphor.
Hmm.
And what is an onion? It's made up of layers, isn't it? And you peel a layer back, and you find something else in there. So as a metaphor, it really works well to describe agility, looking at it from different layers. The layer of what is maybe on the outside layer, which is quite apparent, visible. When you go and look at teams, organizations applying agility, what you see is that outside layer. You see tools, you see practices, you see some of these methods that we may be touching upon today. You see all of those actually happening and in practice, and they're visible to you. You can touch them, you can feel them in some ways. Um, you can see them, right? But as you peel those as you peel those layers back, what is revealed are things underneath
Hmm.
that. So some of the principles, the values behind agility, I mentioned at the start of today's session. um, Agile is made up of a series of value statements and principles. And if you've been to one of our previous episodes, you would have hopefully learned a bit more about some of those values and principles. But those are the things or the elements of agility that are kind of a bit more hidden. They're not very observable. They're not things you can touch and feel, but they are the foundation for some of these practices, methods, tools that you see people adopt and that you see organizations kind of leverage when it comes to how they apply agility in action. So that's the kind of how I would describe the onion as a metaphor, as a way to see agility. It's all about different layers that come up to making agility and what it actually is.
Absolutely. And there's an odd Scrum framework here. Sorry for putting it there, probably some misspaced. But what's really interesting is we'll talk about the principles and practices. So as Arif said, the agile methodologies are mainly living in these yellow and a bit of a green layer. So there
Yeah,
is a concept of the agile umbrella that we're going to show to you, which is there's a certain there's lots of terms coming into the meaning of agility or under the umbrella of agility. Um, what you can see on the right over here are the agile methodologies. Now, there are a
yeah,
good couple, um, but there's a spectrum of what they are. So there are some that have a lot of rules, and there are some that are a bit more adaptive.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's it's a bit of a controversial thing which one to use and how. But we'll get to that in one of the next episodes. But essentially, depending on your situation, you might choose a method with less or more rules, which is an interesting one. Arif, any other hints? Any other comments for
Well,
this slide?
I think we should definitely talk about our audience and
Hmm.
people who are joining us today, many of whom probably aren't coming from a technology background
Yeah.
or working in a technology space, right? And in the work we do, a lot of what we do is focused on those organizations who are looking to apply agility outside of tech, because that's where agility originally came from. So I think we should bear that in mind in today's conversation. We'll talk a little bit about that.
We most
Um,
certainly will.
so and I think when we look at some of these methods, we'll maybe touch on how some of them are more applicable, perhaps in a non-tech setting. Maybe some are very much applicable in a tech setting, and how you can leverage them in terms of the type of work you're doing wherever you are. How does
Absolutely.
that sound, TK?
Well, it sounds quite great. One thing I'm going to say
Amazing.
is there's one method
Yes.
here which is called do whatever. I'm sure you've
Do
seen it in
whatever.
action,
Yeah,
Arif, and
I
it's
love that
like
one.
you know
Brilliant. Yeah.
that's the key thing. So one of our
But
clients actually fed us back and said, "Oh, this
yeah.
agile thing is difficult because you need to be disciplined."
Yes.
And I think you
Yes.
can't achieve anything without proper discipline. Agile, for those of you that this is your first encounter, and by the way, welcome many new viewers with us today. Lovely to see you, and there'll be more, but we'll
Thank you
talk
so
about it.
much. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Agile requires some discipline because it's a way of work that isn't necessarily um, something that you're used to. It's quite revolutionary. It's quite unusual. So do whatever can be very adaptive, but you probably need some discipline to be able to get through. So today we'll talk about the three agile methodologies: XP, Scrum, and Kanban on a very high level, and we'll be able to explain where they came from and what they're good for.
Yes, I think so. And these I think are probably some of the more um, uh, popular
Yeah,
methods, aren't they? There are others out there, and they are hinted at under the umbrella itself, as you can see in the image. But these are some of the more popular ones. The do whatever makes me laugh, TK, because I think
many people do, right?
because many people do, but I think also is an important point here, which is, maybe we'll touch on it today or it's a future episode. What's more important? Is it the values and principles of agility or the method that tries to bring those to life? Right. So it's an interesting point, perhaps a discussion in itself. I don't know if we want to go through that
Maybe not
in
today. Maybe
another
on
episode.
one of our
Maybe
other episodes, like the Gem
episode,
or
yeah.
yeah, Coach on the Rocks. We have other live shows, and we'll go into these things in more
But
details there.
maybe
Yeah.
Maybe, but yeah, but it does bring up some interesting questions for me as we talk through this. But anyway, as there are some questions while we just before we get
Yes, go
into
ahead,
it
Arif.
around how do
Actually,
you what.
the comments don't work for me, so you have to be helpful
No
there.
worries. No.
What
I
was the
think that
question?
some people asking how to watch previous episodes. Very simple. Go to our company profile, Humble Associates on LinkedIn, and you should be able to get to events that we have
Yes.
hosted previously. And if you look through that, you'll see our previous episodes of Agile 101 that we've hosted, and the recordings are all there. So do take the time to have a watch. and you'll learn some cool stuff about agility, I'm sure, if you look at that.
We are
Anyway,
quite confident that
back,
you will. Thank you so much, Arif, and
well,
thank you for
yeah,
the reminder. And yeah, if there's any other questions, do let me know, because unfortunately I've
please,
lost the panel. But the first agile
no
method that
worries.
we wanted to talk about is, oh, and by the way, before we go, because this is such an interesting slide, do whatever. Many times you might have heard, if you're, if you're new to agility, and people were saying, oh, we can go to agile, but we don't want to because it's too chaotic. Um, do whatever is not an officially sanctioned method. Agile is very organized and requires a lot of diligence and discipline. So we're just putting it here maybe for laughs. But the one of the first methods that we wanted to talk about is extreme programming. It's one of the oldest one that was developed. I think it has been developed in early 2000s and developed by Kent Beck. Now, I remember, Arif, do you remember when you first learned about XP?
It probably early 2000s. I know it was around for much longer. Sorry, much before that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, early 2000s was when I first came across it. I was at a conference. Oh, it was like a residential retreat for a whole weekend learning about agility, and one of the organizers there put on a whole exercise where we learned it in a bit more detail. It was really interesting. But I mean, I think the name gives it away here. This is really about software engineering,
Yes.
coding, programming. So if you're in that industry, if that's the type of work you do, then a lot of the elements of extreme programming as a method will fit for that type of environment. Okay, it's going to be
Absolutely.
difficult to apply
Yeah.
outside. There are some elements of it which you could abstract out, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it will be difficult to fit in a non-tech environment.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Arif. I've learned about XP before I even associated the word agile with the things that we're doing now.
Yeah,
I actually was introduced to XP in a university project. So my
nice.
lecturer said, "Well, that's quite a new thing, very extreme, organized very differently." And we've tried it, but I understood very little from it at the time, and I didn't really grasp how revolutionary it was and
Yeah.
how it would play into the future. But Arif's absolutely right, dear viewers. This is
Mm.
primarily centered around software development. In fact, it's called this way, extreme programming. So if you're into IT and if you're delivering software programs, XP is an slightly elderly, but definitely very revolutionary method of having feedback loops and making sure you're always getting feedback on a smaller and smaller scale. Now, if you can see here, you've got your pair programming, so programming with another person on the same machine, then doing tests, what's called unit tests, then doing more and more things and having bigger and bigger feedback loops until you release the software. What's really great about XP is it introduced this concept of very quick feedback loops, which other methods are actually based on. So this
Yeah.
circle is a great diagram that basically explains it all. Maybe not in great detail. We might go into it if you as viewers would like it. So give us a comment if you'd like to hear more about XP in future episodes. And we'll most certainly do an episode for you. Arif, any other comment about XP?
Well, I think it's important if we I don't know if we have a slide on the agile values and principles, TK. If there's
Not
a
in
way
this
you
one,
can,
but yes, we can definitely
if
look
there's
up
a
our
way you
previous
could,
episodes. Yes,
but if there's a way you can conjure it up, then great. If you
prefer
can't,
not.
that's not a problem. But what's it, I think really useful for viewers to probably link to here is where do the agile values come out
Hmm.
in this method, right? Well, where is it that we can see agility actually appearing in extreme programming? I mean, one aspect that I think we can focus on a little bit is the idea of responding to change, right?
Yes.
And when it comes to responding to change over following a plan, that's one of the five
Hmm.
agile values. Um, you can see in how extreme programming is very responsive, right? It is very immediate and very proactive in its desire for you to get feedback as quickly as possible without doing a lot of upfront work. So
Yeah, good
at the
point.
smallest unit of work, as soon as you write some code, get some feedback. Now, it might not be that feedback allows you to get feedback from a customer, but it allows you to get feedback in terms of, am I doing the right thing? Is it what building, am I building this thing in the way it should be built? Is it working in the way it should work? And then I'm slowly scaling up from that small piece of code, eventually getting some feedback from people and aligning around expectations. Is it meeting the needs of the people I'm building it for? So you can see there is this constant push for feedback, responding to what's around you, responding to any change in the environment, whatever that change is, as opposed to strictly following a plan.
Yeah.
If you were to follow a strict plan to get you from A to B, you can see very clearly in this method that extreme programming will struggle to fit, because there is this idea of constant feedback loops, and the smaller the scale of the feedback loop, until you get to even a larger scale of a feedback loop, it doesn't matter. It is about constantly evolving and responding, as opposed to strictly following a sequential set of steps. So I think really important to highlight that as a observation when it comes to how does the Agile Manifesto, original Agile values come through visibly in this method.
Very good
Of
point,
course,
Arif. Yeah.
there's one other one. I know time is, we need to, so one other one around working software over comprehensive documentation. Again, I know if you're in a non-tech setting, that might be a difficult one to get your head around, but the idea of something working, something actually doing what it says on the tin, as we say in English, as a phrase, very apparent in extreme programming. It's all about building it correctly. Is it working? Does it do what it says? Is it testable? Can we see it's working without defects? That's what extreme programming is encouraging you to do in a lot of detail.
It most certainly is.
There we are.
It most certainly is.
Yeah.
But over the years, there is another method that has, well, dare I say, nearly replaced extreme programming in terms of popularity with Agile teams. And you might have heard about it. It's called the Scrum framework. Now, when it comes to the Scrum framework, it's been developed actually before agility, again, late 90s, but Ken Schwaber and what's the other wonderful person's name? Do you remember?
Jeff
Arif?
Sutherland.
Jeff Sutherland.
We got Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber,
Yes.
who claim they created Scrum.
Well, it's an interesting turn of phrase that you've used. There's some other people that were involved too. Marine Davos,
yes,
in Belgium. But there's a story for another episode at another time. So yeah, what's Scrum all about, Arif, compared to XP?
Well, I think for starters, I think what you'll see when you look at the diagram when we bring it up, and if it's on your screen, you'll see that there. It is not talking about software at all. In fact, it avoids the language of programming, software engineering, any of that in how it is structured. The idea of feedback loops are a bit different in Scrum. It instead focuses on the idea of time and time boxing as a mechanism or as a constraint for you to get certain work done before you then move on to something else. It also constrains you in different ways when it comes to, for example, certain events or activities needing to happen in order for Scrum to be considered Scrum. You can see them on your screen, the ideas of, things like planning events, daily stand-ups, retrospectives, reviews. All of these things are Scrum's way of constraining you in terms of following their pattern in order to get value delivered, in order to get some output delivered that hopefully meets some particular outcome you're looking for. So that's, I think, in a way, how Scrum, as you can see from a diagrammatic point of view, is very different to extreme programming. It doesn't go into the minutiae, for example, of how you do the work. Scrum doesn't tell you how you should do the work, whereas extreme programming is very particular in terms of how it tells you to program, how it tells you to test.
How to test, how to communicate with users.
Exactly. Scrum doesn't tell you anything about that. It's very process oriented in that sense compared to Extreme Program. Although I'm sure people who are Scrum users may disagree with the way I'm describing it. Feel free to put your comments in the chat. I'm happy to debate that with you. But yeah, those are some of the differences I think we can talk about for sure, TK. And I don't know what else you want to
Well,
focus on,
maybe
but yeah.
I'll talk about why is it so popular. There's a couple of reasons. One is because it's trained by the Scrum Alliance and Scrum Org, and the training is really popular. But I think the basis of its popularity is that it comes in a bit of a box. You've got what's
Yeah.
called oh geez, I forgot. Scrum. There's a definition of Scrum, and there's the whole description of how it's supposed to work, like a small Scrum Bible. It's more like a pamphlet.
Scrum Guide.
Scrum
The
guide,
Scrum Guide,
indeed.
TK.
Yes.
That's what
So
you're
you
looking
can
for.
yeah. Well, I always forget the words when I need them, right? But essentially,
Apparently, we're agile experts, TK. What's
well, I
going
know,
on?
right? But there's so many viewers that actually I've got a bit of a stage fright. But thank you so much,
Come on,
everyone, for
TK.
joining. So there's the comments flowing. It is the Scrum Guide,
Excuse me.
absolutely. No worries, Arif. But the thing about Scrum is it's popular. One of the reasons is because it's self-contained and it's very applicable outside agility, outside IT too. So it's not only software development, but there's a lot of uses for Scrum, and it's relatively easy to read and think you can implement. All the agile methods are actually quite challenging to implement if you don't know what you're doing. It looks easy, as in a rule book. The Scrum Guide is quite simplistic. It sounds like a wonderful idea. This is sometimes why people that possibly shouldn't implement Scrum tried implementing Scrum instead of maybe the other method that we're going to show you. But it's extremely popular.
I think there's something else we're missing here. The reason there's that deception, I think, is the element of team. So Scrum is very much focused on how you should collaborate to get work done.
Yes.
It isn't talking about how you should do the work, but it's about how you collaborate with each other, how you organize yourselves. And if you focus on how you organize, if we're focusing on that element of Scrum in terms of the organization of it, the element of collaboration, how you work with each other, how these events and particular artifacts that make up Scrum, how all of those have an impact in terms of the organization of your work and how you collaborate with each other, it is asking a lot in terms of asking you to change fundamentally how you work. And so organizations, teams who are looking to then adopt agility, while on the face of it, they see that it's very simple. It's only, a couple of pages of description and there's a couple of events we have to start doing. Great, but underneath that, there is a big change in terms of how you collaborate with each other. It's asking for you, for example, to work very closely with each other in a multidisciplinary way or in a multidisciplinary team in order to achieve a common goal. Many organizations are not ready are not historically able to suddenly switch to that way of working. They are not capable of, or they're not ready to switch to a multidisciplinary team model, for example, or they're not ready to start standing up different meetings, events, structures in order to facilitate that way of working, right? So that's where we have challenges. We see that a lot in organizations who are trying to adopt Scrum. So I think it's important to point that out, TK, as key differentiators.
It is. And by the way, if you're using Scrum, we would love you to for you to give us a thumbs up on the event. Let us see how many of you are there. And if you like Scrum, or if you have a comment about it, or you'd like to let us know why do you think it's so popular, that's a question for you to the audience. Let us know in the comments. Would love to have a bit of a debate here, or maybe see something. Arif, any interesting comments, any interesting questions from the audience?
No, I think nothing much. I think that there are a lot of people from all around the world joining us, which is quite amazing and quite nice. So thank you, all of you. It's quite a pleasure to host you all today. I think just with the time we've got, it's worth pointing out we mentioned the non-tech element, right? We've talked about how the difference between extreme programming and Scrum. Let's just focus on that. Because of Scrums, as I said earlier, very much focus on the team dynamics, collaboration, how you work together. It has by nature that means it allows you to then work on challenges, problems, things that need solving that don't necessarily have to be software. As
Yeah.
long as there is an element where multidisciplinary involvement is needed to solve a problem, then Scrum can be useful. So, we work with teams who are trying to solve sustainability problems or problems around, challenges around a lack of diversity and inclusion in their
Yeah.
organization. Lots of varying kind of topics in their organization, which need a multidisciplinary approach in order to solve that situation, where Scrum or Scrum-like processes can really help get some value delivered to that organization. Really worth pointing that in mind.
Yes, absolutely, Arif.
So
Scrum-like.
there's a
We'll get back to it
versatility.
because
We'll get
these
back to that.
methods,
Yes.
as great as they are, they're just methods, and there is no need to use them exactly. But we'll get back to that very soon. But there's another method. You might have heard of it. It's called Kanban. So if you are a Kanban user, please give us a thumbs up if you can on LinkedIn, so we know how many of you are there. It's a bit less popular, but this one doesn't say anything at all about software. It's nothing to do with that. It's more about service delivery. It comes from Lean, and it's all about visualizing, limiting work in progress, managing flow, and there's other important rules there. It's a
Yes.
service delivery improvement method. So it works on a bit of a different level than Scrum, but it's very popular nevertheless.
Thank you. Yeah, no, really important. I'm just wondering, Tika, with the time we've got,
Yes.
maybe we come back to Kanban in another episode, because I think there's more to it that we
Possibly
can
so,
expose.
yeah, than just the time we have permitted. And
the time has flown so well, and there's so
yes,
much we've
indeed,
got to cover.
it had. But just another thing that I'll add to it, if I go back to the umbrella slide,
definitely.
What we're doing quite often at Humble Associates is we are able to combine the methods. It's very important that all these frameworks, all these methods are someone's solution for someone else's problem. The important thing is, so we need to understand what events and what pieces of these methods will fit your organization. And thus, we're doing our best to always fit what's there for the context. So, you might think that reading a book about Kanban or Scrum would help you implement agility. It most certainly will, but you probably need an expert to really know how to tune it and what elements of it to implement for you. So that's quite an important thing. Yeah, go ahead, Arif.
And I think, especially as we said at the start, our focus is around non-tech environments, right? So if you're trying to, apply agility in an environment that isn't technology, then that requires some expertise. It requires a bit of nuance, a bit of skill in terms of how best to apply some of this stuff in there. But so with that, I think we have something. We do. Some of you have really enjoyed working with Kanban. I'm sorry we've run out of time to really go into Kanban, but we'll get back. We'll bring you back for another episode, and maybe we'll go through it in more detail.
And let us know if that's what you want to talk about.
Exactly.
Because actually, if you want to gain some of this knowledge, we've got something special for you this month. So, Arif, we've got a bit of an interesting thing for our viewers.
Yeah, I think it's important. We want to share with you. We've been doing these episodes now. We're on 8-9 episodes, and we've got a lot of you have been following us and really interested in the work we do and how we teach agility, etc., and how we get it across to all of you. So, for organizations out there who are looking to bring agility in, especially in that non-tech space, trying to figure out how to use it, whether it's business change work you're doing or you're innovating something in your workplace, if you're, whatever that situation is, if you're in the finance team, if you're in the marketing team, it doesn't matter. If you're trying to bring agility in, we're offering a kind of taster session, a free 1-hour taster session. I think the QR code is on the screen, isn't it, TK?
Yes.
So go ahead and look at that or click the link on that QR code. So scan that QR code, and we're an exclusive offer for you guys as our our loyal audience. Go and sign up for a free taster session where we'll introduce some of this stuff for you in terms of how agility works, looking at it from that non-tech space, how you can bring about some change in your organization using agility. Check out the link, sign up. We're running the taster session at the end of the month, so you're welcome to join us. And obviously,
yes.
if you, 27th of June, and if you're enjoying what we're doing at that taster session, then we'd be more than happy to obviously talk to your organization about how we can help them or help your organization with agility and making it happen for the work you do wherever you are and wherever you work. So
Yes.
yeah, do have a look at that. Yeah, do have a look at that QR code. Click that link and sign up for our free 1 hour taster if you can, and we'd love to have you join us at the end of June.
Yes, the 27th, 1 p.m. And the taster is but a taster of our full Agile Fundamentals training. Essentially, you can
That's
see
right.
how quick the half an hour flew by. I'm sure the hour
Very
will
quick.
fly by as quickly. So if you think your organization needs to know more about agility or is interested in implementing it, follow the link Humble Associates /June Taster, or just scan the QR code on the screen.
Thank you. That's it. And we'll be back with another episode very soon. We haven't got the date scheduled, but it'll be in another couple of weeks, I'm guessing, TK, isn't that right?
Yes, another couple of weeks. I think it's at the end of the
Brilliant.
month too. Follow our Humble
Amazing.
Associates profile. All our live events
Yes.
are here. Point your friends to this episode so they can view the recording. Obviously, you've been here, you've seen it. It's been a wonderful half hour with you. Thank you for your great comments, likes, and everything. And
your
we
engagement.
will see you soon.
Yes.
Hopefully on the taster.
See you soon. Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Goodbye.